Well, hey, if we haven't had the chance to meet yet, my name is Kitty, and I am so excited to be up here speaking to you guys this morning. I know he just said it, but egg drop. Before we jump into the message today, if you have not signed up to serve the egg drop, do that today. We have QR codes, I think, up here that you can scan to sign up to serve. They're in the lobby. Guys, they are by the toilets. Come on, potty propaganda. We have QR codes everywhere, so make sure that you sign up to serve the egg drop. Make sure you sign up to register your kids, and then those invites in the seats, make sure you grab them on your way out to take out and invite your family, coworkers, friends, anybody, because it's going to be incredible. Y'all ready? Yeah. Has everybody been enjoying this series called Faces in the Crowd? Yeah. Woo! That's how we feel sometimes, right? We're just in the crowd. Nobody sees you. Nobody knows what you've gone through. Nobody knows what you're currently going through. You're just lost in the crowd. You feel unseen, just blended in the background. Can anyone relate? Yeah. And then there's some of you in here this morning that might feel a little different. You might feel like God doesn't see you. That God doesn't know what you've been through, He doesn't know what you're currently going through. And can I tell you this morning that is not true. You guys can be seated for just a minute, but if you have your Bibles and you want to go ahead and turn to our theme verse in Matthew 9:36, here I want you to see that Jesus' life, especially his ministry, was marked by crowds. And even when Jesus probably wanted to be alone, he was always surrounded by people. And if there's anyone in the room like me, I'm not a fan of crowds. Anybody else? Yeah, you asked me to go towards a crowd, and I just deep breath, and I breathe, and I can't handle it. You can hear it in my voice right now. Man, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like, another extremely awkward moment is about to forever be booked in the book of Kitty, because I can't handle it. It's hard for me. I pray about it, okay? I'm growing through it. But man, I'm so grateful that Jesus wasn't that way when crowds gathered around him, right? I'm so grateful for that. And that just goes to show you that this is something that we don't need to shy away from, that we need to lean into and learn to grow in. So Matthew 9:36, if everyone will go ahead and stand, and we'll read this out. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were confused and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. So Jesus is going to crowds, like volunteering to do this, right? He's going to towns and villages. He's teaching and spreading the gospel. He's praying over and healing people. And so he sees where people are gathered, and he goes to them. But he also sees through the crowd to each and every individual. He sees their condition, he sees their heart, and in turn, his heart is moved with compassions. And when we look at this, there's three things we need to keep in mind when we look at how Jesus responds to crowds and to the individual. And that's that Jesus sees us, he knows us, and he cares for us. He sees us, he knows us, and he cares for us. Let's pray. God, I pray you would open up our hearts this morning. God, that we would truly believe that you see us, you know us, and you care for us. God, so you can help us move forward in our identity and relationship with you. God, so you can help us move forward in our life past the things that we can't rescue ourselves from. God, we ask you to come in this morning and help open our eyes to the victory that you already have planned for us. God, we love you. Thank you for leaving your word. And everybody says, amen. All right, you guys can be seated. So, faces in the crowd, and today we're going to be talking about losing joy. So joy, that deep-rooted happiness. I'm not talking about surface-level giggles. I'm talking about that deep-rooted joy. When everything in your life is crumbling around you, I believe that you can still have joy. You still can have it. And so for me, when I think of that deep embedded joy, I think of joyous moments. I think Jesus knows what he's talking about, because when I think of those joyous moments, I can't really think of moments where I am truly alone. Like all of those memories and moments and breakthroughs involve people. And it's in those areas that bring us joy that are also the areas of our lives where we can lose it, right? Because to lose joy, you first have to have it. So we're in this relationships with all these people, and our relationships with God, and our relationships with our spouse, our children, our friends, our parents. And in every encounter we have the ability to add joy or subtract it. And it's those moments and excitement and expectation are the same moments that in our eyes, everything ends up going wrong, and we lose that joy. We lose that deep-rooted happiness, and we end up feeling defeated, helpless, and alone, right? So today we're going to be looking at the perfect example of having high expectations. I'm talking the best day ever. Insert tension. Insert catastrophic news. I'm talking about that day that us ladies dream about our whole lives. I'm not sure about the guy's perspective on this, but I do know that when your woman or your little girl has been dreaming of this day her whole life, that you care about it, right? You care about it, and you will do anything you can to make it the best day ever. We are talking about a wedding celebration. A wedding celebration. So we're going to be looking at John 2, verses 1 through 3. The next day, there was a wedding celebration in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. The wine supply ran out during the festivities, so Jesus' mother told him, "They have no more wine." I think it's so cool that Jesus was in this like hardcore mission to save the world, and he was still popping in on weddings. Right? This just goes to show that he saw a crowd and he goes to it. He never missed the opportunity to gather with people. And so they ran out of wine, which was a huge deal back in the day. It was considered a ginormous insult if you ran out of wine, and it showed your huge lack of preparation. And so when I think of weddings, I think of two types of people, right? There's always that one person that when something happens, they freak out and go towards the bride. And then there's this other person that tackles this person, right? Like, what are you doing? Calm down. It's not that big of a deal. Like, we're going to push through it, get through it. It's all going to be okay. And then you know who those other people are. They're loose cannons. They freak out and whirl out and plummet when reality hits them. They get caught in this whirlwind of feelings instead of stepping back and assessing the situation. And then there's others that are prepared or equipped to push through and do whatever it takes to make that day right, right? They hit it head on, ask those pointed questions, and get back on track. So, and we're not normally just one of these or the other, right? Like pending our circumstances, depending on what season of life we're going through and what all life is throwing at us. Sometimes we can handle it. We got our A game on and we got it. And then there are some times when we just can't. We just can't, and we freak out and get crazy overwhelmed, and we just can't get it together. And we only see life from that one side. We get this tunnel vision. And that's where we get stuck. That's where we get in trouble. And so at the end of the day, we all have expectations, right? Who in here has expectations? Everybody raise your hand. You know you have expectations. Everybody. I need some participation this morning. Everybody has expectations. Insert world, hello life, right? So that's the main point that I want to speak to you guys about today is our expectations. because I think losing joy has a lot to do with our initial expectations and how we view them. So, what are we expecting? I think when we look at this wedding example, there are 3 things that we need to expect throughout our lives in order to keep us from losing joy, and this is proactively how we move forward. So the first one is to expect challenges. Expect challenges. So what challenges are you currently facing? They ran out of wine. Pretty big deal. Not the end of the world, but they couldn't just run to a Circle K or Walmart or Target to restock, right? They had invited all these people. Most of the times it was the whole town or village, a week-long celebration. They ran out of wine, and now they're in a pickle. But we know this, right? That whole John 16:33, I have told you this thing so that in me you may have peace. In this world, there will be trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So we got to expect challenges, right? So going back to all those areas in our lives, our relationships, we know there are going to be bumps in the road, right? Everybody knows that. And we're cool with that. But lo and behold, something happens, and we are like, no. I mean, we know there's going to be trouble, but we didn't expect that. Like, we're good with bumps. We don't want no potholes that blow out our tires and wreck our alignment, right? So how do you view and handle those situations? We got to figure out in those moments, which person are you at the wedding? Romans 5 verses 3 and 4 says, we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope. Yeah. So expect challenges because we know they're going to be present. But more importantly, we have to know that suffering produces perseverance, that persistence to keep moving forward. And when trouble happens, we have to offload all of those feelings of doubt and fear and pride and unworthiness. We got to clear the page and go back to what's true, to God's word and what is true. And by having that perseverance, that looking and moving forward, we develop character, which is our distinctive mental and moral qualities that are embedded inside of us. And in our Christian walk, that looks like us developing that deeper trust and assurance that God sees you, He knows you, and He cares for you. And He's got something good for you and the people that He surrounds you with. And it means knowing that when challenges come, when trouble comes, He's trying to show you something. And He's got something, He's given you the opportunity to deepen His relationship with you, and He wants to grow you and strengthen you. And He wants to make a kingdom impact doing it. Yeah. And He is the only one that can glorify your circumstances. Yeah. The only one. Because we don't just get where we are, right? We're faced with challenges every day, and we have the choice to sit in them and wallow in them, or we can let them build up and overwhelm us, or we can buckle down and grow through them. Be that person that tackles with truth and allow God to glorify your circumstances. So, my God sees me, He knows me, and He cares for me. Expect challenges. And then we have to expect the unexpected. So, they ran out of wine, and Jesus' mama goes to him and tells him about it. And he replies, "Dear woman, that's not our problem. My time has not yet come," but his mother told the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." So we have to expect challenges and then do whatever it is that Jesus is telling us to do. And the majority of the times, it's not what we expect. So we need to wake up every day expecting the unexpected. I wrote this down. To have great expectations is not pretending to be ignorant of obstacles or issues we face. It isn't the absence of problems. We already know there will be challenges. There will be trouble, but it's your willingness to view the bigger picture in spite of your obstacles, in spite of your issues, and do whatever Jesus is telling you to do. Do whatever God's word instructs us to do. Because expectation is needed to get our vision off the ground, and action is needed in order to bring our wants into fruition. So that action is where you actually see blessings in your life. Expectation is needed for liftoff, and action keeps our vision in the air. Expect the unexpected. So do you expect God to use you? Like, honestly, do you wake up every day expecting him to use you? Every single day. Because he wants to, and he gives us the opportunities. But you're going to continuously miss it if you put your expectations over his. So do you expect God to use you? Verses 6 through 8. Standing nearby were 6 stone water jars used for Jewish ceremonial washing. Each could hold 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told the servants, "Fill the jars with water." When the jars had been filled, he said, "Now dip some out and take it to the master of the ceremonies." So the servants followed his instructions. They followed his instructions. I wonder what we would do if we were told this. Like, what? Like, why? Why do you want me to take water to someone that requested? That doesn't make any sense. Isn't that how we think? Come on, I think most of us in here would be like, let me go ask somebody if they've got some hiding somewhere, or let me go look around, right? That's how we think. And see, their expectations could have limited their roles in the miracles. But they moved in spite of their expectations. The last thing they expected was to be asked to take water to someone that requested wine. Makes no sense. But they did it. They took action, and Jesus equipped them. Jesus wants to use each and every one of us. Each and every one of us. Verses 9 through 10. When the master of the ceremonies tasted the water that was now wine, not knowing where it came from, but of course the servants knew, he called the bridegroom over. A host always serves the best wine first. Then, when everyone has had a lot to drink, he brings out the less expensive wine, but you have kept the best until now. Jesus wants to use you, and it's normally never how we expect him to use us. Because even in our wildest dreams and the highest expectations we can have, they are nothing compared to what he has in store for us. And he wants to use you in the best way possible for you and the people that are surrounded by you. We got to expect the best. We're going to throw back to Moses in Hebrews 11:25. Moses chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. Track with me for a second, because this tells me that our judgment is jacked up. Like, we are straight up addicted to these fantasy expectations that we build up in our heads. And we think that we know what's best for us through the lens of fleeting pleasure. We want that instant gratification, that instant validation, that instant happiness. And we want our surface areas to be just shiny and polished. We want to throw a Band-Aid on a bullet hole and keep trucking, right? Like, I got this. I'm in control. I ain't worried about it. I'm just going to stay happy, that surface level happy, get my temporary feel goods to sustain us, and I got this, right? You don't. And it's not just kids these days. I feel like, especially my age group, we're really good at saying, oh, kids these days, they just want that instant. It's everybody. In every category, in every age group, in every generation, there's so much pride and offense and lack of self-control everywhere. The devil is dragging us down with inwardness, and it's killing us. And we get trapped in this mindset, and we forget that we have the Creator on our side. On our side, and He is for us more than we're for ourselves. And this book has stood and will always stand the test of time. It is a living word, and sin is fun for a moment, but it's fleeting, and it won't sustain you. See, we're really good at having expectations that the people and things of this world are going to do what they're supposed to do. Heck, we have high expectations that we'll do what we're supposed to do. And it's wild that we naturally lean on that over God. And when I was doing this, the definition is similar of expectation and faith. And the way some of you hold it is similar, but it's not. Because with faith, we know God sees us and He's going to come through for us. We say it because it's the right thing to say. But it's a whole nother deal living it out, right? Because, see, we don't expect challenges. We don't expect it. We expect everything to magically work out. That's the reality. And we miss out on developing that perseverance and character. We don't expect God's going to use us to perform a miracle, so we don't put in the work every day. Even though God shows up every single day, we don't put in the time talking to God, absorbing His word, making sure we're surrounded by other believers, pouring into other people, developing that servant's heart, making crowds and relationships a priority. We don't expect the best because we're short-sighted. And we aren't thinking about salvations. We're not thinking about marriages truly being healed. We're not thinking about growing the kingdom of God. We're thinking about me. We're thinking about I. We're thinking about what we want to eat for lunch and our to-do list at home, right? We're thinking, I'm tired and I didn't sleep and I don't want to put up with this right now. You're thinking, I want an easy fix. I can't handle this. And the easiest and fastest way is to insert that fleeting pleasure. Whether it's food or shopping, alcohol, pills, leaning into relationships that you know you don't need to be a part of, screens, coming home from work and just numbing yourself while your family's moving around you and you don't even notice them. Whatever it is that you numb yourself with when you feel that little lack of joy. And it knocks you down further and further each time, not allowing you to know that there's glory in suffering. And He's trying to build that perseverance and character. And it prevents you from developing it. And those things aren't going to sustain you. That's not going to sustain you when you lose a kid or when you get that diagnosis or when you really don't know if your marriage is going to make it or not, or when you're just getting surrounded by attacks and you feel like you can't breathe. I joked in the beginning about another extremely awkward moment forever being sketched in the book of Kitty, because I feel like that's my life. But think about that for a moment. The book of insert your name. Like, how do you want your book to be read? Are there fruit and blessings following your challenges and troubles? Or are they pushed down and unresolved? Where are the miracles? Is the main character like growing and succeeding, or just kind of staying in the same place, stagnant? Do you spend the majority of your day complaining or praising? Who's around you? Can you see the ripple effects of your obedience in your book? If your book was in the Bible, how would you view it? Would you be inspired by it? Would you reference it to other people? Proverbs 4:18 says, "The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day." Ever brighter to the full light of day. Jesus saves the best for last, and the longer you follow him, the deeper your roots should grow. And your joy is found in him and his expectations, not our earthly expectations. And it's not an in and out type relationship. You can't in and out and only do it in certain areas of your life, because he's in it for the long haul, and he wants all of you. He wants all of you, and he sees you, and he knows you, and he cares for you. When your time comes, he wants you to hear, "Well done." You have to continuously choose and trust him, and he'll sustain you. He's going to guide you through those troubled times. He's going to ask you to do something unexpected that makes no sense, and then he's going to come in and bless it. He's going to bless it right when you feel like you cannot take any more. He's going to show up, and he's going to heal you. He's going to mend your relationships. He's going to bring your marriage back together. He's going to free you from that addiction. Whatever trouble comes, he's going to show up and bless you with it, and he will sustain you. And the outcome will be further better than anything that you can expect or imagine. And it's hard. Like Pastor Eric was talking about a few weeks ago, it's hard living this Christian life. That's why a lot of people walk away from it. But in Acts 13, it says the disciples were continuously filled with joy in the Holy Spirit. That's why he sent his Spirit to help us through all of this. We're gifted that when we walk into a relationship with God, to help guide us through troubled times, to help walk us through the unexpected, and then to help us live out the best life possible for us and the people around us, the people in crowds. And we cannot do that apart from God. So if you're in here this morning and you've never accepted a relationship with God, I want to give you the opportunity to do that today. And I also want to give anyone the opportunity to recommit their life today, because that was me. I've loved Jesus and had this faith my whole life. But doing that alone, not being a part of the church, I missed it. I missed that Jesus spent his whole life building the church. I missed his love and compassion for crowds and gathering. and I came to church with you, and I started serving, and I started tithing. And yes, it took me about 1.5 years to be drugged to a Connect group. But I walked in feeling alone and helpless and defeated. And I was so sick and tired of that surface level joy. And it's been almost 8 years now since I felt that. Because we're connected in a church. Jesus built his church. And it wasn't until I saw that and surrounded myself with believers that helped walk me through that, helped me live this thing out for real. I got connected. And if there's ever any moments where I feel like I'm starting to lose joy, man, I know who to call, and they get me back on track. And they remind me that it's okay, that Jesus is going to grow you through this. And he's going to ask you to do something that doesn't make any sense. And then on the other side of there's a blessing. And that's what I want for each and every one of you. I don't want you to feel lost. I don't want you to feel like you don't have joy. I want you to be excited when something bad happens. Because that's how I am. I get excited. Something happens, trouble comes, it makes me shaky, and I know God's going to give me something, and we're going to get through this. So if everyone will just bow their heads right where they are. And if that's you this morning, that is alone and defeated, I want to give you the opportunity to walk into a brand new relationship with God today, whether it's for the first time or whether you're choosing today to start a new life and you want to recommit your life. So on the count of 3, if that's you, just raise your hand right where you are. Nobody's going to be looking around. We're not going to call you forward. This is just between your heart and God's. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Just lift them up right where you are. Yeah. Yeah. Just keep them up for a second. And if that's you this morning, I want you to just repeat this prayer right under your breath. Say, Jesus, I need you. God, I believe that you sent your one and only Son to die on the cross, and I believe that he rose 3 days later. I'm asking you to separate my sins as far from the east to the west, and I'm choosing you from this moment forward to follow you. And it's in your name we pray. Amen.